Let's together and feel alright. Yes, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice. It's Holy Thursday in Dominica and around the world. The Catholic Roman Catholic calendar, Holy Thursday. I just want to welcome each and every one of you from north to south, east to west, at home and abroad. Listen to Q95 at this time. This is the Workers' Voice. I'm your host, Hector Sparks John, and tonight we'll be doing the same thing as we always do every Thursday here on Q95 to interact with you, educate you, and learn from you as well. So tonight is no other than what we could do each and every night. Just call a friend, tell a friend that Q95 FM is the Workers' Voice going on right now. But as we always do, we always welcome the Most High in our midst. And tonight we'll just play this one from Leonard Tasha Cobbs Leonard, Gracefully Broken.
God will break you to position you, break you to promote you, and break you to put you in your right place. But when He breaks you, He doesn't hurt you. When He breaks you, He doesn't destroy you. He does it with grace. Anybody been gracefully broken? Or
Yes, but as we do that as well, we touch base to some family members who have lost loved ones during the week. So we'd like to touch the family of Dorita Felix Benjamin of Salisbury, resided in Maho. We'd like to extend our sympathies to the Felix family in Salisbury and the Benjamin family in Maho, especially sympathies to her husband, Mr. David Benjamin, better known as the conch shell man. You know him blowing the conch shell in Family with song from Marshall Montano. I just want to extend sympathies to the family of Dorita Felix Benjamin, also Everson Cassia Alexis of Salisbury, his entire family in Salisbury. I extend sympathies to them. The family of Teresa Shillingford, very close to me, next door neighbor for all my life. Some people call her Auntie Zaz. I know her as Mato or Matiti. So sympathies to Nasika, Doreen, Lily, Irene, Joan, and the entire home circle. Also sympathies to Mr. Griffin Nichols of Laron Laplane, who resided in Riviera Civic. Sympathies to his entire family, his wife Vanjay, Kendra, Nadine, Simon, Joy, and all the others in the home circle. Sympathies to you and the family on behalf of the United Workers' Party on the passing of your loved one. Just want to reach out to you tonight.
in all of your name, your love stands strong to the end. You will fulfill your purpose in me. You won't forsake. You will be with me. Will be with me. Here I am.
Greetings to my brother Reed John, who will be celebrating his birthday on Saturday. Happy birthday to you, little brother. Yes, Gracefully Broken. I just want to reach out to each and every one of you across the globe. Welcome to the Workers' Voice. Tell a friend that the Workers' Voice is on. This evening in studios with me is the political leader of the United Workers' Party, Dr. Thompson Fontaine from the Grand Fond Rivière Zurich Freal Monjon constituency. So welcome, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, to the Workers' Voice this evening.
Yes, Banks, a good night to you and to many listeners on this Holy Thursday. It's good to be here tonight. And of course, the Workers' Voice happens every Thursday until 9 p.m. And tonight, we're really delighted to be with you. And we just want to, just say what an honor it is to be able to be here in studio and just to talk about a few things that are going on, including this big meeting that has been planned for the 24th of April. That's next Thursday, exactly 1 week from now. We're asking people to gather at the Arch in Roseau. That's a big meeting the United Workers' Party is holding, and we're inviting all of you to be a part of it. Come on, show your support. It's called Standing Together for Dominica. So we certainly would like to see all of you out there and to be a part of it. But Sparks, what an interesting few weeks we've had. I know you can't talk much about it, but
No,
it's
I
been
I can
quite an interesting
I can
few
talk
weeks, huh?
I can talk about it, but just before we go into what transpired, but the reaction that we get in the regional international reaction is very interesting. And yesterday we saw uh, a release coming from one of the international human rights organizations touching some of the issues that we have been raising for a very long time. And I must compliment the United Workers' Party for being leading that charge for the past 20 years, since 2005. And all that information is out there. And the other the other political parties, the pressure groups who join us, the individuals who made the contribution towards getting that information out there on a regular, consistent, no matter the amount of tear gas, the amount of intimidation that some of us face and victimization, we stayed there and played our role. So before we go into what I'm interested in, I think Doc, you would like to maybe hear. Let me hear your point on some of the critical areas raised by the human rights
Yes, Pax.
organization.
It is very, very interesting. This is the Inter-American Council on Human Rights, and they are very much concerned about the seeming denial of our basic fundamental human rights here in Dominica. They are concerned about the high-handed manner. They're concerned, as I said in the release, about the police action.
Right.
The police actually using physical force, using live tear gas and live ammunition, and in some cases the rubber bullets and tear gas against the people of Dominica. They were very much concerned, and they quoted different conventions that they say that the government of Dominica appears to have violated. And one of those that they stress is the American Convention on Human Rights. There is also the American Declaration of the Rights and Duties of Man and the Inter-American Democratic Charter. Those three that they cited that the government of Dominica have in fact broken. And what they're saying is that those conventions, what they do is that they affirm that citizen participation in decision making is both a fundamental right and a cornerstone of democratic governance. The American Convention on Human Rights explicitly guarantees every citizen's right to vote and engage in public affairs. These instruments serve to uphold and protect political rights, ensuring the integrity and legitimacy of electoral processes. So basically, they say that there is a fundamental right to having a fair electoral process. In fact, they went on to talk about the importation of voters as being a serious violation, because what the importation of voters into Dominica does is that it removes the level playing field. And the idea is that if you're going to be inviting overseas persons to vote in the elections in Dominica, every other voter in the diaspora should have that same right. And what you're doing when you are bringing in one set of people is that you're denying others their right in contravention of this. And so they were very, very clear about that. They also indicated that, and very importantly, that social protests play a crucial role in the preservation and strengthening of democratic systems, encompassing the rights to freedom of expression, peaceful assembly, and association. The exact same things we have been saying.
But if you look at one of the paragraphs that started on, and I quote, on March 19, 2025, the House of Assembly passed these bills, triggering widespread protests. State forces warning that no permission has been granted to anyone to stage a protest outside the Parliament building, responding with tear gas, rubber bullets, and physical acts against personal assembly. The Commission has been informed that as a result, since that date of approval of the reform until April 9th, at least 24 persons, of which 4 women, has been arrested, including opposition leaders, lawyers, and human rights defenders, while the majority has been released on bail. On the strict condition, one person remain on remand at the Dominica State Prison. I read that paragraph, Doc, because you see they were on the ball. Recent information, Mr. Durant only got released yesterday. That is
correct.
Mr.
Samuel Durant.
I just want to say good night to him, and I'm happy that he's sleeping warm in his bed. But they made mention of the permission and all the lower down. They made mention of it. How about necessity and legality of protest actions. How do you need permission to protest against government, against a tyrannic government? And that is what the police is pushing, the leadership of the police force, and also the Minister of National Security. And it's telling you that you already need permission.
Exactly.
And that's why they have permission in that thing in brackets.
Yes.
So it is saying that you don't need permission to
and lower
down in the presentation that they made reference to that.
Yes.
So I think these are some of the things we need to highlight in the public space, that the government is and the police is trying to pressure us and saying that we did something that was illegal.
Yes, and they were basically saying that you cannot limit people when it comes to expressing their freedom of expression. And the party looking for back says any limitation must strictly adhere to the principles of legality, necessity, and proportionality. In other words, if you're going to stop people from protesting, you're going to put up barriers and so on, there must be a certain level of legality and necessity. And the question is, does the behavior that we saw on display by the police on that day, whether they went over and beyond? And it goes on to say that states have an obligation to safeguard the rights of individuals engaging in protests, to protect their physical integrity and ensure unhindered access to the press. All right. So, basically what they have done there is to remind the government of Dominica that in so many respects, they're in violation of these 3 fundamental conventions that Dominica is signatory of.
And something that came out of that discussion on the other side, saying that was just about 120 people that had protested, but it showed that the 120 people that protested, how effective it was, and what it has been, what you have seen happen in the domino effect in terms of the information that is out there, the concerns that have been raised by international human rights organizations. And what do you think, Doc, that says about the type of governance we have right now in this country?
What it says is that this is a government that is rogue. Effectively, the international community is looking very, very closely at what is going on. They talked about the behavior that was meted to the journalist, to the Imo News journalist. They talk about the treatment of protesters, the fact that police acted in a high-handed manner. So what that tells me is that the government of Dominica is under very, very close scrutiny. The world is watching the behavior of this government. And there are very, very often, there are penalties. There are things to be suffered if you continue to behave. And I see this press release as a warning, because they made clear mention of the authorities. They're basically saying that you have an obligation, government of Dominica, and we did not see you exercise that obligation this time. So that I thought was very strong, was very important. Yes. Yeah.
So in that type of discussion, hello, good evening, welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Good evening, Dr. Fonkin. Good evening, Mr. John.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, from the report you all have just read, it talks about violation. I am thinking if somebody violates something, there should be a course of action which can be taken. So what I would like to find out whether there is any action that can be taken against the government internationally, not locally, to take them to one of the international courts or something like that for the violation of people's rights. The second thing I would like to touch on is I want to say good evening to Mr. Duran. It is nice to know that you'll be sleeping in your bed. Right. The second thing I want to talk on is the bail condition. Right? Here it is, people like Sparks John and others who were bailed in the sum of, hello?
Yes, we are there. We are here.
Yes. You're bailed in the sum of $25,000.
No, I was building the sum of $40,000 with several conditions.
Several conditions.
Yeah.
No, and Mr. Duran was bailed on his own recognizance. Now, how can a magistrate
for $5,000
in the High Court
for $5,000? Yes, $5,000
at the High Court.
How can a magistrate do that? And one of the conditions is that, can you imagine a man is a builder and you're telling him he cannot do any house during that period if you're still, or he's a farmer, he cannot go to his farm? Because that's what your profession is done, Dr. and the others. I just cannot understand what the magistrate was thinking. I just think I would touch on those two things.
All right. Thank you very much, caller.
Thank you, caller. I wanted to respond to the question that he asked about the penalties. I think that's a very important question. And typically, when that happens, what we will see the organization do is to summon the foreign minister, summon the government of Dominica before them. And that is very likely in this case, because these are very serious charges in terms of what the government has done, the denial of our basic rights, the arrests that they've done, even after the fact, going after innocent people who were not doing anything, So it seems to me that they have that option. Beyond that, they can take action against the state. So if, for example, that action continues, that is like a first warning. If they continue that kind of behavior, it could get to a point where they could recommend, for example, that Dominica be suspended, from the OAS, and other sanctions be imposed on the government. And that is why we have to keep this issue front and center to the rest of the world, because they may think that we are helpless within Dominica to do anything, but there are things that can be done internationally against players like we have in government now, Minister of National Security, the Prime Minister, who appears to be directing everything that is going on.
Yeah, just like in 2019, December 5th, ambush of South River while they were asleep. That matter is before the court, and also we have a matter in 2015. And as you said, it happened in December 5th, 2019, and by March, Vincent Destin was right before the Human Rights Committee. I was trying to lie to Dr. Paul Khan, who is a guy. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice. Yes, you're on the overseas line. Good evening. Hello. You're not paying attention. Hello. Good evening on the overseas line. That person is not paying attention. Yes, the numbers are 4493095, 4493096, 4493097, 616-425-4257, 616-4257. Overseas number 305-432-9624. And you can WhatsApp me at 767-265-4334, 767-265-4334. I'm here in studios with the political leader of the United Workers' Party, Dr. Thompson Fontaine. We're discussing some of the issues, something that came up recently, yesterday, coming from human rights, one of the human rights organization, and it's right.
You see,
IA
Yeah, the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights. Right. That is an organization coming out of the OAS. Right. As we take this call, Sparks, I'll come back. There is something else I wanted to highlight in this.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Blessings to you, Mr. John.
Blessings to you, my brother. How is everything?
I cool. Dr. Fountain, blessings to you.
Yes, blessings. Good night. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Cool. Gentlemen, just a quick observation. I heard Dr. Fountain refer to it. The IACHR, something attached to the OAS.
Yes.
Having to do with human rights and electoral reform and, the abuse of power and all of that. Don't you remember a couple of weeks back, about 2 months back or more, Mr. John, you may have remembered as well. There was a report, Skerrit claim he received from the OAS, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, something so? That's what it is, gentlemen?
American States.
American States. Thanks. And he said that he would have made it public with the response to the report. Can you all recall?
Yes. You're absolutely correct.
But what if that is the same report he refused to make public? And the response to it quite extensive and laborious instantly.
Yes. Within a few hours.
Or was it a prepared response to it months ago and they were forced to release it based on the publication of the report of that organization there? You get my suspicion. My suspicion tells me that is the same report Skerrit promised to release with a response to it. But I was there saying to the doc, why you don't just tell them, no constitution, go to hell, it's not your damn business, Dominica is a sovereign state. Why that extensive and laborious response? And it seems so spontaneous for them to have responded with something so extensive. I think, Doc, they had that there prepared months ago, realizing they might really provoke that international organization. And it is sad, I see Blackmore just come and make a strange kind of infiltration this afternoon and change the narrative of that damning report. And Doc, I want you to go somewhere and see if you can get a quarry to bring to Dominica. Have a blessed day.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, blessings. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the whole thing. And we're talking about penalties as well. The fact of the matter is, we have seen a greater willingness on the part of countries to punish other countries, and sometimes they punish the individuals. So, for example, people can be subjected to travel bans, for example. They cannot travel to certain countries if they continue to behave in a rogue manner, in a manner that is contrary to the norms.
Interestingly, Doc, last week, a lawyer told me in Roseau he's fed up with the amount of arrests. He said we can get advisories from international governments because of that nonsense, and then telling the people not to go to Dominica, so to affect your tourism product. Also, you see the amount of blacklisting that is becoming norm of Dominica.
Yes, absolutely.
So how do we, as an opposition party, how do we pattern ourselves or begin to move the country in the right direction dealing with those issues?
Okay, so I'll come to that, but let's take this call.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Good evening, Sprague. Good evening to the good doctor.
Yes, good evening. Good evening.
This thing of Clarence Christian, I don't know what did Matt ever get an explanation from him, because I went past a certain area today, and it seems to me that the Chinese are going to find a mine. They have found a mine, because I saw them scraping at it a few weeks ago, but now I see about 60 vehicles there, and I suspect that there's some consultation. As soon as you cross the Desbranches Bridge to your left, and I believe if they're going to start blasting that place, it might affect the Desbranches Bridge. Mark my word. So it seems like Clarence Christian said they went to China to find a quarry, but they've already found the quarry. So maybe as soon as you leave the Central Forest Reserve, as soon as you're outside the bunk, maybe all that's China. It seems to me, it may sound funny, but Clarence Christian may be referring to it as China. I don't know if incorrectly or subtly or whatever, but the Chinese have found a mine. And watch out, right outside the boundary of the Central Forest Reserve.
Yeah, thank you very much, caller.
They're going to start digging.
Yeah,
it's interesting. So does that mean the airport is back on stream?
Yeah, but not only that, Doc. You're looking at the level of pollution going to affect the Concord River. The Concord River is one of the most pristine rivers that we have on island, and they're going to go the silt and all the other things are going to go right down to Pigwa Bay. So
yes,
I hope the people in that area, the environmentalists, the people in the area, the parliamentary representative for the Kalinago territory, who considered himself to be an environmentalist, is Kozia Frederick, he will maybe step in as well. The parliamentary representative for Marigot is Mr. Charles. I think we have to be proactive and ensure that we don't have issue there, because they had an issue as well in the Hatton Garden area.
Yeah, the one in Pigwa by the Pigwa River there, right?
Yes. So you have some issues.
A lot of it was going down.
Addressed. But let's go back to, you were making a point, Doc, Marie, the same discussion that we're having about the press release.
Yes.
There's nothing.
Okay, so we'll come yet. Let's take this.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice. Yes, sir.
I mentioned about Griffin Nichols. Is it the ex-cricketer?
Yes, it is. Yeah. The ex-cricketer, Spinner.
Okay.
Yeah, he passed away yesterday.
Well, I know we play cricket together.
Okay.
So I sympathize with his family.
Thank you very much, caller.
He was a very good friend of mine.
Yes, son. I played with him as well. I was a little boy playing with him in the time of Matupi in La Plaine area. So I played against Griffin as well as a little boy. Okay, good. All right. He was that spinner. Right. Yeah, the same spinner. All right. Thank you very much. Yes, Doc.
Yes, but I wanted to make the point now that they, what they have also done, very interestingly, of the commission, is that they have now linked the question of electoral reform with human rights standards. And they're warning the government. They say the IACH further calls on the Commonwealth of Dominica, that is government, to ensure that the electoral reform process, beyond the passage of legislation, adheres or agrees with international human rights standards. The reform of electoral systems must aim to strengthen the independence of electoral institutions, promote fair and transparent campaign financing, and ensure equitable access to the electoral process. So they're saying it is not good enough to simply pass legislation. You have to go beyond that to ensure that there is equality, to ensure that there is equitable access, and that everybody has equal access to be able to vote if they want to, and to ensure the independence of the electoral office. We have not been talking much about that independence, but this electoral office is not independent. We have 3 commissioners appointed by the government, and they have been running things, so to speak. They have been having their way.
You don't want to say that they're free passport vendors. They're authorized promoters of the Citizen by Investment Program.
Exactly.
So the chairman is Mr. Duncan Stowe, attorney at law. A member, Mr. Lawrence, Lennox Lawrence, attorney at law, and also Alec Lawrence, attorney at law. These are the 3 government members on the commission, and they all 3 are involved in selling passports. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Braggs, somebody is also telling me that this head of the Electoral Commission was with Mr. Skerritt when he went on his little campaign run there.
What?
He was at the head table.
Yeah, in St. Martin, yes.
How can that...
Are you serious?
Yes, he was. We saw it. It was on, yeah.
No.
So how can he be independent?
Yeah. No, but if that happens, that's enough for her to tender her resignation, because she's not there on behalf of Mr. Skerritt.
Duncan.
And not only that...
the chairperson. I'm referring to the chairperson.
Of the Electoral Commission, yes.
Really?
Yes, he was there.
The man has not said a word to the public, not a word, not one line. As I said before, he has a babu chet. How can you not educate the public about these matters that are going on? The man has not said a word. He should be removed. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. And also, the Electoral Commission as we on this point, they are not doing a service to the Dominican public. You know, people have been calling, I'm sure Spags, your constituents have been calling about the process, you know.
And just before we go to that, let's just take a short break just to let people know that you listen to the Workers' Voice. In studios with me is Dr. Thompson Fountain, leader of the United Workers' Party. Don't forget, on Saturday morning from 8, we'll continue selling tickets for the car raffle. It's a Toyota Nova. First prize, second prize, you have a smart TV, and third prize, a tablet. The draw will take place on October 25th, 2025. Only $5. So join us. You'll meet Ken and Mr. TC, Edingcourt, and all the others. Yes, Mr. Laura will be there to assist you Saturday morning in front of the Prevost Cinema from about 8 a.m. Yes, Doc, you were making that point about
the electoral, yes, and you know, now that the legislation has been passed, and that is where the IARC is saying that we have to be careful. We need to hear very clearly from the electoral office what's the next step. They need to be explained to the Dominican public, because constituents have been calling. I'm sure you've gotten a lot of calls, and myself, people have been saying, what are you all doing? How come we're not yet being confirmed? They need to know that the process has not yet started, but they also need to know when that process is going to start and what they need to do. Because we heard, for example, the Labour Party calling persons and asking them to turn in their IDs. And you wonder, how is that even possible when you're supposed to be reporting physically? So all of that, we are now finding out that the legislation is defective. It does not say what type of ID should be used to confirm. You know, so we have a lot of problems, and we need the Electoral Commission office to come out very clearly as to what's the next step.
And I just want to give support to what you're saying, Doc. I went there sometime last week to seek some clarification, find out information, the reconfirmation exercise in terms of officers in my constituency. And they have not done anything. There's no literature, no brochure, nothing flyer talking about the next move, what they're doing. And so I just want us not to get carried away. Good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Yeah, just quickly, Doc, this one is for you. Doc, you have traveled, and particularly in Africa, not we alone, you know, that have corruption all over Europe, America, everywhere, Central and South America, Asia, we have corruption all over the world. But you have seen corrupt leaders and dictators and the way they behave. I have asked that a couple of times back. I was asking, could it be a provocation for sanction, for decoupling the relations with Europe and America, like you see in Cuba and in Venezuela and other countries, where these countries sanctioned so they can use it as an excuse, Doc, to say, well, it's not us, it's the people that have us like that, it's not me. And they're living and feeding high on the hog with the billions they stole, while the people cannot travel to America, to Canada, to France, and wherever they want to go. Could it be these people provoking a direct collision with the international community? Because look at the highly paid slaves on the plantation selling passports and on the electoral commission. I mean, I'll pay you millions for me to be safe and for me to have longevity, long life into my dictatorship. So what they will not do, more than maybe wanting to provoke a sanction to decouple relations with those countries there. Doc, I smell a rattle. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that. That's okay. If not.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I will in a while, but let's take this call and then I'll
hello, good evening.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Yes, that's me again. Just a point of correction. Nichols was an opening batsman. Maybe the time you play with him, he was just trying something spinning.
Okay.
But he was an opening batsman. He replaced Ozzie Lewis when Ozzie Lewis could no longer play for Dominica, I believe, because of an injury or something. So he and Henry Elwin opened the batting for Dominica. But on Spaggy referred to the tear gassing of the people from Salisbury. I know you all have a very competent lawyer or team of lawyers, but there's something I want to point out which you haven't heard many people talk about. The protest was done in what do you call that area, Spags?
Wait, Lavigi.
Lavigi. The protest was Lavigi. If you have a protest or demonstration, you use tear gas to disperse the people from where they are to send them to their official residence or wherever they wish to go to. You use there to disperse them. But you go up at there and you start gassing the entire village. So where are you dispersing them to? So I just want to make that point. As I said, you have a very competent lawyer, but that is something to keep in mind during the trial. Where are you dispersing them to when you go and start tear gassing them at their home where there was no protest?
All right, thank you very much, caller.
Yes, thank you, caller. Again, just the gross violations that this report is talking about. That's what we've had in Dominica repeatedly. And I'm glad that somebody's pointing that out. Now, Blessings was making the point about the behavior of this government and whether they're trying to provoke an action that will put Dominicans into more problem. And you have to wonder about that because even after that protest, ended, we are back here, not one police officer was injured, not even a scratch. Initially, they began saying that police officers were injured. So when I demanded of them, of the Labour Party, to give the name of the police officer, that went quiet. But initially they were saying, well, there were injuries and so on, but they could never identify any police officer who was there who got even a scratch from this. So then you wonder why it is that they would provoke this slow drip of arrests, where they would arrest people over a 3-week period. Every day, people living in fear. One protester I spoke with a couple of days ago said that they've not been able to sleep over this past 3 years because they wondered if they would be next because, in that case, they were close at the time to Boston. They were right next to him. All the pictures where he's shown, they are standing next to him, and whether or not they would be next and having to live with that fear, So it seems to me that they are really provoking, and you wonder why those arrests. You also wonder why it is that people are taken in and just for standing up for their rights. And at the end of the day, if something like that is provoked, where sanctions are placed on Dominica, where travel bans are imposed on Dominica, then it's the people that will suffer. And like you said, they're immune, they have the largesse and so on, and will be able to take care of themselves. At the end of the day, the people suffer. So yeah, that could be a possible motive, because nothing else explains those arrest bags. Why are you taking people arresting them for what? When no laws were broken.
Yeah, and that's why I think the response was driven, and I mean Blessings to a certain extent. How they responded so fast. We've been a few hours. They responded, and they make a lot of comments were made, and I was just reading. I read through it, and I had to just laughable to me. But it shows that they have to try to push back, and when they are caught between a rock and a hard place, so they have to push back. Let me just, before we go continue, let us remind those people in Marigot, and there is a town hall meeting in Marigot on Wednesday, April 24th, town hall meeting, United Workers Party indoor town hall meeting for the catchment, Marigot catchment. Just want to let you know of that meeting and to give support, go and listen to the discussion taking place in Marigot. Yes, Doc.
Yes, so I wanted to make the pointers again that, you have all of those arrests that are taking place, and you wonder why it is that you are oppressing people to that extent, where you don't have this liberty. Now, talking about the electoral reform, it is very important that this government understands that the mere passage of legislation is not electoral reform. Okay, so you cannot claim to have given electoral reform if you do not follow through with those reforms. All right. So you claim you've passed it in legislation. Now we want to see the confirmation. We want to see a cleansed list, not the same bloated voters list than we have. We need to see that. We need to see movement, you know. So it is very important that that happens. And you're hearing all kinds of talks, perhaps about, you know, snap election and so on. But I'm saying, how could the government, how dare this government call an election when they've done nothing to correct the taints on the electoral process? You must correct it. You know, according to the CCJ, you should not have any other election in Dominica on those and similar things. So if the government were to call an election before the 12 to 15 month period, this election cannot be considered free and fair, because you would not have cleansed, according to your legislation, limited as it is, you would not have been able to carry it through. So that's very important. You know, the government understand that, and that is something else that the international community has been made aware of. That any election called in within that 15-month period would not be considered free and fair. So we do not want to have another election in Dominica that's not free and fair. There is ample time. We are less than 3 years into a 5-year period. The government needs to take its time, get the clean voters list, get the voter ID, do what they say in their legislation before any election is called. And we have to keep this government on notice where that is concerned.
And you said that, you made that point earlier on, Doc, in terms of your constituents asking the questions, people concerned about what we're doing, how we are dealing with that situation. What you would, to allay the fears of our listeners or our supporters, what would you tell them at this point? But as you made the point that you hear people asking the Labour Party telling people to come and get IDs and whatnot, how do you allay the fear?
Yeah, I think a lot of the fear that all people were expressing is because their neighbors were telling them that they were receiving calls.
Right.
So they were like, how come, you know, my neighbor who's a Labour rider is receiving a call and we're not doing anything. We're not talking to them. We're not telling them anything. The fact of the matter is the process has not yet started. As you said, when you visited them a couple of days ago, they were very clear. They've not yet started the process. What we understand as well from the electoral office is that they're putting in place enrollment officers. So the same persons who are doing the registration will not be used for the enrollment. That will be a different group of people in each of the constituencies that will be put in place. So they're still identifying those people. They have to give them contracts. They have to take the oath of office. All of that needs to happen before they actually start the process. And then they have to tell us what kind of IDs that needs to be brought in. So none of that we can answer just yet because it is not in the legislation. The electoral office will need to clarify that. It may have to take probably even going back to Parliament to clear this up because, again, in the haste to do the legislation, basic things were not covered, and that's one of them. That's a major, major faux pas on the part of this government.
You're seeing that the reconfirmation process is going to be a tedious one. It's going to be.
It will be. It will be.
Frustrating.
And then, you know, the other thing is, you know, I kept saying over and over again that nowhere in the legislation did we see centers in Dominica.
Right.
You know, the legislation that is there before us talks about the possibility of having overseas centers. So you heard the Prime Minister over and over again saying, well, everybody will be asked to come to Dominica. Not true. That's not in the legislation. The legislation that I have seen talks about that the electoral office can steal at the place of their choosing, including overseas.
No, but another question then, in terms of residency, you have, it's very clear about residency. You have to show that you are living in that place. You have a physical address in Dominica for you to get registered and meet that requirement.
For registration. So if you're registering,
right,
you know, like you're just an 18 and so on, you have to show that you were there. But if you're confirming, the confirmation is just your name, you're confirming on the list. Yeah. So you don't have to show that you are still living in Dominica to confirm. And that is where, again, it is highlighted in the report. They talk about the residency. They have thrown out the residency requirement with that piece of legislation. And it is there in this report from the IERC. They talked about the specific thing because in the past, residency was closely tied to voting. And that's the reason why you had to be in the country within the 5-year period to vote in every election. That is now gone off the window because as long as your name is on the list, then you're allowed to vote.
So it shows that there's a lot of confusion in people being aware. I think my looking at the the different acts that pass in Parliament. I see it as trying to simplify it, make it easier, create a level playing field for bona fide voters to get the opportunity to vote. But now I see it as trying to frustrate a certain set of Dominicans at home and abroad not to vote. That's why I'm saying I was in full support. I'm still in full support for complete registration.
Exactly.
So you just come in to register and move the process. Right now, we're going to frustrate people looking for areas, looking for addresses, and trying to find their way, looking for a proper ID to register. So what, with all that going on, Doc, how do you think is the best way that we can deal with that situation to ensure that no matter what political party you support, but you have that opportunity to register and to exercise your franchise?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, persons need to confirm their names on the list. That's the law. It has been passed by Parliament. So just ensure that your name remains, especially if you're in Dominica, ensure that your name remains on the list. So at some point, when this is opened up, you will have to go to those centers that they've set up, the enrollment centers, and ensure that you maintain your name on that list. And we have to keep a very close watch on it in terms of how the list comes out, hoping that they don't remove persons who are legitimately in Dominica. That's something else that we absolutely have to watch. And as we take this other calls, Max, I wanted to highlight another very important thing from that report.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Two questions. One I didn't hear quite clearly, and the other one I think I heard clearly. Did you say that there are, or maybe I heard it from Mr. Linton, did you say that time has passed that is required by the legislation, but the Electoral Commission has not done things that should already be done?
There are some things, even uploading the acts on the site, you have to do it within 72 hours, and maybe take close to about 8 days to do that. Yeah.
So it hasn't. So
it's up right now.
Because some people are saying that they have not seen it
Okay.
on the website. Up to last night, people were looking for it there and they had not seen it.
Okay, it should be up.
So in other words, it wasn't done on time?
No, it was not done on time. I'm sure of that.
Okay, so I'll come back to that. And the second question we tie into it. A while ago, you said something about something is meant to frustrate certain people. My question to you is, why would the Electoral Commission want to frustrate the voters of Dominica?
Well, if we see the modus operandi for the past years, when people have been asking for electoral reform, some of the chairman and members of the Electoral Commission has been very quiet. You have heard the members on our side, Mr. James and Mr. Schlinford, spoke on some of the issues. But when they were asking for reconfirmation, a lot of that was driven by the government. And the Prime Minister said that in one of his interviews, he didn't want complete registration, but he wanted confirmation, and he got it. So it looks like they wanted to frustrate some people. Right now, you're hearing that the government has a drive trying to ensure that every labor right has an ID.
And that is precisely the problem I'm running up against.
Right.
Because
yes,
we keep acting in Dominica. First of all, it is disappointing that your party is out front on this, because the Constitution of Dominica does not recognize political parties, and the work of election is not for parties, for the Electoral Commission. The Constitution is very clear.
That's correct. That is very correct.
Yes.
So we seem to be acting in Dominica as if we do not have a constitution.
Right.
And the problem with that is something that everyone is overlooking. Section 117 of the Constitution says that anything that is done, the language is any act, that is inconsistent with the Constitution of Dominica shall be void. And everyone in Dominica is acting as if they don't know what the meaning of void is. In other words, everything that is being done right now is void because the Constitution recognizes only the Electoral Commission as the authority on running elections in Dominica.
Mm-hmm.
Not the UWP, not the DLP, not the ACT, not anybody else. Only the Electoral Commission is an authority on running elections, so that is the reason why they are the ones who must tell Parliament what laws to pass, because the purpose of the electoral laws is to facilitate the Electoral Commission in running the elections in Dominica, because they are the authority. So it is surprising that there could be legislation passed in Dominica that sets a time scale for which the Electoral Commission was not ready, because they are the ones who would have told the government when they would be ready to do anything after the law is passed. So in other words, the Parliament of Dominica has gone rogue. They have violated the Constitution of Dominica. The laws that they pass are unconstitutional because the Constitution doesn't recognize the laws. I am even surprised that I'm discussing this because something that is void is void. We cannot make it not void. The Constitution says it is void. I'm sorry, Dominica is in a real mess.
Thank you very much,
Yes.
sir, for your
Yes,
contribution.
caller. Yes, thank you for this very important bit of information there. And you know, I agree with him, Spags. You know, it's not our place to run the elections.
Yeah, no.
What we're doing is just crying foul because we're seeing what is happening. We're seeing how it is going wrong. We're seeing how they are not following through. And we are very much concerned about it.
And over the years, the United Workers' Party have been very consistent in making recommendation, seeing some of the areas that we have issues and ensuring that we get this information all day. So I'm very happy that the caller would call in and I know him as a very learned lawyer. Good evening. Welcome to the Workers' Voice.
Yes, gentlemen. You know, we've seen the profile of the Labour Party. The Labour Party behaves as if it came there yesterday. People see your profile. They tried to make treating and bribing and put it in the law. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And they had to back down. So we know their profile. They're not interested in free and fair elections. Mr. Skerritt, Blackmore, we know that you're not interested in free and fair. We've seen your profile over the years. Now, gentlemen, can you tell me when Mr. Tony Astafan was talking about the constitutional Cool Wash Brigade, what was he referring to? Refresh my memory, please.
He was referring to 1979, what transpired. I sure my good friend Peter Caron would be able to assist me in this one.
Well, okay. So the Cool Wash Brigade was legal according to Tony Astafan's mind?
Yes.
Yes. Right. So you had a Cool Wash Brigade in 1979. It was legal, but now people can't go and have a protest. But you could have had a constitutional, as he says, Cool Wash Brigade. And that is Tony Astafan, the mouthpiece of the Dominica Labour Party.
Yep.
Nothing.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. You know, Spags, you know, I mean, this, you know, the more I take in this report, is the more I am just very happy for it. And there is one thing that it says again, that it stresses and it speaks directly to the government of Dominica. It says, to this end, the IACHR calls on the Commonwealth of Dominica, or the government of Dominica, to respect the principles of democratic participation and to end the targeting and criminalization of citizens exercising their rights to assemble and to participate in public demonstrations. Another indictment on this government that they have not been respecting people's rights to demonstrate. They have not been respecting people's rights to peaceful assembly. And I heard Mr. Blackmore say repeatedly that we promoted a protest. That is not true. We kept saying, meet us at the House of Assembly. It was always an assembly that we were going to have. That is what we call people out to.
Yeah,
we call people to come out in your numbers to assembly at outside of Parliament. It was never going to be a procession for Roseau as he claimed it was. You know,
Doc, I personally don't pay more attention to Reuben Blackmore and the others. They have been there for 25 years. What have they done in terms of ensuring that we have a very vibrant, effective electoral process? They have tried to kill it, and then when people react, that is how they are now trying to see if they can muzzle us, victimize, intimidate Dominicans. And I believe no, because the international world is watching now, they under serious scrutiny. And so they have to push back a bit. So I personally, I don't even take on Reverend Blackmore. I don't listen to him. And I just want people to begin to understand where we are as a democracy and the role of the United Workers' Party in that process from since 2005. And I want to repeat, I repeat that because, Doc, a lot of times when you do these things, people try to say you're not doing enough. What is the United Workers' Party doing? Sazo Cafe, are you all prepared? But a lot of the hard work, the resources, we don't have the financial resources. We have to go back to the public to assist us to do a lot of our matters. Look, now we have 25 people on bail, and the United Workers' Party played the role in ensuring that the lawyers, they meet the lawyers' fee to some extent, on behalf of the patriots who are out there. And we have to commend the United Workers' Party for helping to organize and the ERC and organize those who make the resources available. But the United Workers' Party played a very vital role in that. Doc, as we wind down, let me just remind that people that are listening to the Workers' Voice in studios with me is the leader of the United Workers' Party, Dr. Thompson Fontaine. Don't forget, on Saturday, the 19th, we'll be in front of the Prevost Cinema Mall selling more tickets for our raffle that will take place on the 25th of October. We'll be raffling a Toyota Noah. On the 23rd, there'll be a town hall meeting in Marigot, and on the 24th, there'll be a meeting by the Arch in Roseau, a very big meeting gathering of patriots as well, organized by the United Workers' Party.
Yes, I just wanted to say, like, imagine as a party, election after election, you are doing the work, you are getting resources, you are getting candidates, you are on the ground, you spend countless hours, and you seem to be going to win, only to find out that on the day of the election, you just sit helplessly by as you watch plane after plane land and depart out of Dominica. How does that feel? And in all of that, we've been calm, We've taken that over and over and over again. So when we begin to speak, people need to understand that is where we are coming from. That time and time and time again, this government have cheated, and we are just taking it.
But just to give by way of statistics, in 2014, we got about 17,300 votes, about there, 7,500 votes, and we got 6 seats. In 2019, we got 16,000 and about 600 votes, and less than 1,000 it went down by. But we lose 3 seats.
3 seats, yeah.
But if you look at it, the margin, we lose about 5 seats, but less than 100 votes.
Yeah.
So it shows that, and it was estimated that the Labour Party had about 21,000. It was estimated that they brought in close to about 8,000, 9,000 people. So if you look at it, the plane loads and the boat loads stop coming in. United Workers' Party has the majority on Ireland.
Aspect. That's the reason why we have to keep that up. People keep saying, but why you guys spend time on electoral reform? Well, that is why we spend time on electoral reform, because we can do all the work that people believe that we should do. Do the canvassing, do the house to house, do everything political parties can do, should do to win, only to have our victory taken away from us because we don't have a level playing field. So that's why we spend so much time on electoral reform. That's why we call for a clean list, because those things matter. If at the end of the day we do not get a clean list, we will not win the election. And that is the bottom line. So I need people to understand that, because I find something many times they give us blows. They say, you guys just wasting time on electoral reform and so on. But yes, we have to, because nothing else matters at the end.
Because when you see you're going to win in Grand Four, and you almost then you see 2 busloads coming from overseas, and you lose by 1 vote.
Oh my goodness! I mean, what does that make you feel? And we just are taking that, and so that's why we wanted to ensure that we had a process that we could all believe in, and this government should be really ashamed of itself. That after 25 years in office, where they failed the people of Dominica in terms of economic development, in terms of economic progress, we have not moved forward. There is no Dominican, as we say in Africa, there's no one Dominican that can say that we've moved forward economically in the last 25 years under this government. We have regressed, we have gone back, everything in terms of employment, in terms of incomes, in terms of inflation, everything you would look at normally, we are on the losing end of it. So we have not benefited from this government. They have done a lot to really discourage people. We have people who are leaving the country because of this government, and that is why we are fighting. We are fighting for a better Dominica. We are fighting for a Dominica where we know that there are people who can work to bring this country forward, to develop this country, to create jobs. Look at this Blue Harbor. What it is? Not
Clay
Blue
Harbor.
Harbor. Clay Harbor. They just shut down.
In
700 jobs gone.
Gone.
700 young people are sitting at their parents' home tonight, wondering what they should do, and not one thing from this government. After losing Ross, after losing business after business, I mean, that is the legacy of this government. And the end of that, because they have failed so miserably, they try to use the electoral system now to guarantee their victory, and they expect us to just take it.
But Tom, Doc, if you look
I mean, come to think of it,
yeah, it's crazy.
you know.
Doc, but if you go back, you made a very important point about people just at their home. But if you look at it from the 30s, 40s, even before that, we had a cash crop. And on the Labour Party, we don't have a cash crop.
We don't have, exactly.
We move from cane to cocoa
Yeah.
to limes to whatever, not to
Vanilla.
bananas and up. No,
Yeah.
we don't have a cash crop.
Yes, you're absolutely
crazy.
correct. This government, they've killed agriculture, killed the livelihoods of people, killed the dreams of the young people. We need to remind people of that, That is the legacy of this government. And now they're trying now to secure their win through electoral process. And they expect us not to march. They expect us not to protest. And when we do, they try to arrest us. So this kind of behavior, and I heard the minister say we are trying to give Dominica a black face. Well, we are not the ones that arresting innocent protesters. Dominica would be flying high if the respect was there for human rights. You'll get high marks. You can't.
Yes, Tom, Doc, our time has run out. But before we go, I just want to, on this Easter weekend, what hope do you leave as the leader of the United Workers Party? What hope you leave for the people of Dominica during this very solemn weekend?
Easter is a good time because it talks about the suffering and the death and the resurrection of the Savior. So I think for us, it's a lesson in Easter. And maybe what we're going through now as a party, the suffering, the death, the frustration will give way to a resurrection, where we can actually assume the reins of office and move this country forward. I want Dominicans not to lose hope. It's important that we keep believing that our better days are ahead. We've had a very dark and difficult 25 years under this government, under this Dominica Labour Party government. But the future is bright, and it's always darkest right before dawn. The darkest hour is that hour right before dawn. It gets really, really dark, and then suddenly the darkness is gone. Dawn arrives, the sun comes out, and people begin to move again. And so I think that's where we are in our political evolution in Dominica. We are going through our darkest hours. We've seen the senseless arrests of innocent people, women put in jail cells, smelly jail cells without any kind of hygienic conditions for the ladies. I think we're in our darkest hour. And because of that, I'm very optimistic. And Easter even gives us a greater hope, that we will move past these dark days of Dominica Labour Party rule, and we'll move to a better time when our young people can have choice of jobs. Our young people will have choice of jobs. They'll have opportunities in this country. Our farmers will be not even sleeping because they'll be constantly planting, constantly finding ways to make money, and that is where I see this country headed. That is my hope for this country. And it's a great time for us to rekindle this hope. It's a great time for us to tell the Dominican
Hope
public,
springs
eternal, not to give up. Yeah. The same way there was death, there was suffering, but it came with a resurrection. And so we are waiting for our own resurrection in Dominica when we see the back, quite frankly, of this government, and we get a chance to build Dominica. And that's why I want to encourage everyone in closing, see you on Thursday night, 6 o'clock, April 23rd, at the Arch in Roseau. We'll have a good time there. But we are standing together for Dominica, standing together for a brighter, better future under a United Workers' Party government.
Thank you very much. Dr. Thompson Fontaine, leader of the United Workers' Party, has been with me for the past just about an hour here in studios at Q95. We also thank each and every one of you for joining us. Wishing you a happy Easter weekend. The people of Salisbury and environs, you're invited to Salisbury on Sunday, kite flying festival. So bring your kids to enjoy it, organized by the Salisbury Sports Committee. So on Sunday from 4 p.m., you can bring your kids, no matter where you come from around Dominica, to bring the children to enjoy themselves, flying kites and even winning prizes there on the Salisbury playing field. Once again, happy Easter. Stay safe of you going to, don't forget church, go out there and pray and thank the Most High for keeping you for this week, and also pray for you to have another productive week ahead. Stay safe. God bless you. Happy Easter from the United Workers' Party. God bless and good night.
Truth and truth alone. So the truth will reveal you. You see their faces for you. Never know their thoughts. Every baby knows that dog is deep. So deep. You see their actions for you. Never know their reactions. Time and time alone will prove the story. And every eye will see. The truth will reveal. The truth will reveal. Things that are hidden. I said the things that them high, I keep down inside. Truth will reveal.